Hi there. Yet another book by George V. Higgins, who, as you may have guessed, was one of my favourite writers, and I did read most of his books, especially the thrillers. This one, the Patriot game, reintroduces a character that we've met previously, Digger Doherty, who was in the Diggers game, who runs a bar in Boston and is into high-level robberies. But he's not a central character in this book. He only makes an appearance very briefly, but a lot of the discourse in the book revolves around him. And the main character is Pete Reardon, who he's a federal agent working for a sub-rosa department within the Department of Justice. And his background was he served in a special operations unit in Vietnam. The book was written in 1982. And his specialty was taking out the Viet Cong guerrillas, generally by using a garrote, which was a length of barbed wire with wooden toggles. So he's a very tough character, but he's not the stereotypical sort of Rambo type character. There's a lot of nuance to him, and he's a very well-rounded character. And his job in the book is to hunt down a couple of IRA terrorists who have come to the United States to facilitate supplying weapons back to Northern Ireland, specifically Armalites. And these are hardline characters. They're not the people who just sing Irish songs in bars. They are the real thing, and they're very, very hard to track down. So in order to do it, Reardon is making his way through a whole collection of characters, and he reckons that the Digger may unlock the puzzle for him and lead him to these characters. Now, as we found out in the previous book, the Digger has a brother who was a priest. He's now a bishop. So Pete has some meetings with the bishop, and then with other characters within the local government in Boston. And there's a plot involving a prisoner in jail in Massachusetts who has links to Digger, and this is all being explored. Now, as ever in these books, George V. Higgins books, the absolute delight is the dialogue. And I'll just give you a flavour of it. And this is a meeting that Pete has with the warden or the governor of the prison. And he's talking about when the Digger was there. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Congeniality Award, or would have if we gave one, a very beneficial influence among his peer group in the inmate population. He was always laughing and having a grand time for himself, never had a harsh word to say about anybody. Of course, one or two of his fellow guests insulted him, but that soon stopped. I asked him how he managed to be so cheerful under these conditions, and why it was that even very tough guys who didn't like him liked him. He grinned at me and said, 'Warden, I reason with them.' I told him he must be some reasoner. 'I am,' he said. 'Oh, you'll get a guy now and then who doesn't want to listen, you know, doesn't want to hear what the other guy's got to say, but if you catch him down by the garbage dock, you can generally change his mind for him. There was one guy that I had a reason with 4 times. Not even he thought he was a reasonable man, but I convinced him. I'm very good at convincing people, and when I get a really hard case, I call in some of my reasonable friends and we all reason with him all at once. He comes around. I always tell a man that what goes around comes around, and I never yet run into a guy that went around and didn't come around.' So that kind of gives you the flavour both of the dialogue and the type of characters that are in the book. And Pete Reardon goes around, he carries a cold python, and it all builds up to quite a explosive, firstly unarmed combat scene, which is very well written, and then there's a shootout, which again is very realistically written. George V. Higgins knows the territory, he knows the characters, he's got a tremendous ear for dialogue, and this really is one of my favourites of the books. And I think it's a great follow-up to Digger's Game, although you don't have to have read the previous book, and it's really a delight to read.